He lost everything in a single afternoon. One shipwreck. Every coin he owned gone to the bottom of the sea. The cargo that was supposed to make him rich scattered across the ocean floor. A wealthy merchant wiped out in an instant by something he could not control. And here is the strange part. Years later, that same ruined man would call it the best thing that ever happened to him. Why would anyone be grateful for losing it all? What did he discover in that wreckage that we somehow still have not learned? Because right now, at this very moment, something outside of you is deciding how you feel, and you probably do not even know it. His name was Zeno of Citium. And before he became a philosopher, he was just a man who sold purple dye across the Mediterranean, chasing the same thing most people chase: more money, more security, more of that feeling that finally, at last, everything is under control. He built his whole identity on the outside world behaving the way he wanted it to. And then the storm came. Picture it: the waves rising higher than the mast, the crew screaming over the wind, Zeno watching his entire fortune, his entire future, slide into the black water. There was nothing he could do. Nothing. No amount of intelligence, no amount of effort, no amount of wanting could pull that ship back to the surface. He arrived in Athens with nothing but the clothes on his back and a hole where his life used to be. Most men would break here. Most men do. They spend the rest of their days bitter, replaying the moment, cursing the sky. And for a while, maybe Zeno did too. But then something happened in that city that changed the course of human thought forever. Lost, aimless, wandering the streets of Athens, he walked into a bookshop. And what he read on those shelves would not just save him, it would become a weapon he would hand down for the next 23 centuries. But he did not understand it yet. Not fully. First, he had to ask one dangerous question. He sat in that bookshop reading about Socrates, a man who stayed calm while the city that raised him sentenced him to death. A man who could not be touched, could not be shaken, even with a cup of poison in his hand. And Zeno looked up and asked the shopkeeper a question that would define his entire life. Where can I find a man like this? Where do I find someone who lives this way? By chance, a philosopher named Crates was walking past at that exact moment. The shopkeeper simply pointed and said, "Follow that man." And Zeno did. He got up and he followed, because here is what he had begun to understand in the ruins of his fortune. The storm did not destroy him. The storm was just wind and water. What nearly destroyed him was his own mind, clinging to things that were never his to keep. Stop and feel that for a second, because this is not ancient history. This is your Tuesday morning. Think about the last time your whole day was ruined. Was it really the traffic? Or was it what your mind did with the traffic? Was it really the text message that did not come? Or the story you told yourself about what it meant? You have felt this. The email that made your stomach drop before you even finished reading it. The comment that lived in your head for 3 days. The plan that fell apart and took your peace with it. We walk through life convinced that the outside world is holding the controls to our inner state. That if the money comes, we will finally relax. That if that person approves of us, we will finally feel worthy. That if the circumstances would just cooperate, we could finally be at peace. And so, we spend our entire lives reacting, bracing, chasing, flinching at every shift in the wind. We have handed the keys to our own minds to strangers, to markets, to weather, to people who are not even thinking about us. And we call this normal. Zeno saw the trap. He saw that a man who needs the world to behave a certain way, to be at peace, has already lost because the world will never fully behave, ever. And so he began to build something, a framework, a code, 3 steps that could take an ordinary, breakable man and forge a mind that nothing external could crack. But the first step is the one almost everyone gets wrong. In fact, most people do the exact opposite their entire lives. Here is the first step. Divide the world in 2. Zeno's greatest student would later call this the single most important skill a human being can learn. It is deceptively simple. In every moment, in every situation, there are things within your control and things outside of it. And almost all human suffering comes from confusing the two. What can you actually control? Not much, if you are honest. Not the weather, not the past, not other people's opinions, not whether the ship sinks. But there is one thing. 1. Your own judgments, your own choices, what you do with what happens. That is it. That is the entire kingdom you were given. And here is why this cuts so deep. When Zeno lost his fortune, he had spent his whole life pouring his identity into the first category, into ships and coins and outcomes, things he could influence but never truly command. So when the storm came, it did not just take his money, it took him, because he had built himself out of things that could be taken. The first step is to stop, to catch yourself in the moment of panic and ask one question: is this in my control or not? And to ruthlessly let go of everything that is not. But letting go is not the whole code, because you might be thinking, fine, I will just stop caring about things I cannot control. And that is where step 2 comes in, and it is the opposite of not caring. Zeno taught that once you release what you cannot control, you must pour everything, all of it, into what you can. Your effort, your character, your response. This is not passive surrender. This is the most focused kind of power there is. The archer, the Stoics said, controls how he draws the bow, how he aims, how he breathes and releases. He does not control the wind that takes the arrow after it leaves the string, so he masters everything up to the release. And then he lets the arrow go without fear, because he knows something most people never learn. You are not judged by where the arrow lands. You are judged by how well you shot. Now feel how this lands in your own life. That message you are afraid to send. You cannot control how they respond. That is the wind. But you can control whether you send it with honesty and courage. That is your shot. The morning you did not want to get up. You cannot control that the day will be hard, but you can control the man or woman who rises to meet it anyway. Every time you tie your piece to the landing of the arrow, you suffer. Every time you tie your piece to the quality of your aim, you become untouchable. And here is where it gets strange, because 2,300 years later, modern psychology walked into the same room and turned on the light. There is a form of therapy considered one of the most effective ever developed for anxiety and depression. It is called cognitive behavioral therapy, and its founders openly admit its roots trace directly back to the Stoics. Its core principle: it is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about events, that the space between what happens and how you feel is not empty. There is a thought in that gap, and if you can change the thought, you change everything. Zeno figured this out with no laboratories, no studies, no brain scans. He figured it out because he lost everything and had nothing left to examine but his own mind. Which brings us to the third step, and this is the one that turns a good philosophy into an unbreakable one. Step 3 is this: meet what comes willingly. The Stoics had a phrase for it: to love your fate, not to endure it, gritting your teeth, not to survive it, to actually embrace it as though you had chosen it. Because Zeno realized that resisting reality is a war you always lose. The thing has already happened. The ship has already sunk. The only question left is whether you will add a second layer of suffering on top of the first, the suffering of wishing it were otherwise. And so he trained himself to say yes, yes to the loss, yes to the difficulty, yes to the exact life in front of him. This is why he could look back at the shipwreck, the worst day of his life, and call it the best. I made a prosperous voyage, he said, when I suffered shipwreck, because it was only in losing the ship that he found the thing no storm could ever take. Remember that burning question from the beginning: why would a ruined man be grateful for losing everything? Here is the answer: because everything he lost was never truly his, and everything he found no one could ever take. The wreck stripped away the illusion that his piece lived out there, in the world, in his cargo, and it forced him inward to the one place that was always his. That is the whole code. Divide what you can and cannot control. Pour everything into what you can, and then meet whatever comes with open arms. So here is what you can do tonight. It takes 5 minutes. Sit down and think about the one thing weighing on you right now, the thing sitting on your chest, and draw a line down the middle of a page. On one side, write everything about it you cannot control: their reaction, the outcome, the past, the timing. On the other side, write the 1 or 2 things you actually can control: your next action, your attitude, your effort, Then take everything on the left side and consciously, deliberately let it go. Not because you do not care, because caring about it was never going to change it. And pour all of that reclaimed energy into the right side. That is Zeno's code running in your own life tonight. Here is the truth almost no one accepts. The world will never stop sending storms. That was never the promise. The promise is that the storm was never the thing that could break you. You were. And now you know how not to. Zeno built a fortress that no shipwreck, no loss, no person, no future could ever breach, and he left the blueprint for you. The only question left is whether you will start building. If this reached something in you, stay a while. There is more here, waiting to be found.